Today, we're looking at Private Reserve's Sepia. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. Now, Private Reserve Sepia is a brown ink. To make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples, I put the ink into a different pen for a day, I then put it into a Fountain Pen Revolutions Himalaya to take my notes for this video. It had their flex nib. Before we get to the writing samples, let's look at the sciencey bits. Up first is the chromatography, and I agree with Vita that I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down and immediately put it into water for 10 to 15 seconds. We see this ink immediately flees away. We start to see some yellows, oranges, little bits of some browns, and then this very turquoise blue, turquoise leaning blue across the top. That might explain some of the tones that I don't care for with this ink. The one on the right, I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into water. And truly the difference that I'm seeing between these two chromatographies is it looks like some of the yellows and oranges are just creeping up, leaving a little bit of color as it moved, but basically I'm not expecting any kind of real resistance with this ink. Resistance tests are done to see how this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it might be to clean from your pens. Now, I let the smear dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, it handles itself very well. That extra fine becomes about a fine, but there's no blowout at all in any of this writing. It's all very clear writing. Makes me feel safe using it as a note taker. Now, the water test, I was a bit surprised based on the chromatography. Water's lifting all of its darkest tones. We're seeing some yellowish color left behind. We easily do see the dots of the rhodia paper, but not all of that ink is coming off. Now, Pen Flush did everything that water did, but nothing more. We're still seeing those yellow tones left behind. 1/3 bleach solution does completely remove it from the paper. If you find that you need to use a 1/3 bleach solution to get this out of your pen, just immediately flush it. Don't rust your metal parts. For the inks I've tested, I have found an average viscosity of 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Private Reserve's Sepia has a viscosity of 2.29, making it normal. To find my average dry times, I use my writing samples done with the extra fine and medium nib on Clairefontaine, Tomoe River, and rhodia paper. For the inks I've tested, I have found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Private Reserve's Sepia has an average dry time of 21 seconds, so while it is normal, it's on the very high side of normal. Now, let's look at the writing samples. I picked this ink up in sample form, and it is a perfect example of why samples should be bought over bottles. Yeah. It says Sepia. We'll see about that. To keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's take a look at the Clairefontaine. We get no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo, sheen. It's got this really cool shading thing that's going on, though. Like, here you see this like bands of into the yellow from this green. I'm going to call it sepia. It's green. It's got amazing things it's doing with its shading. The extra fine is the same tone as the 1.1. The extra fine has no feather, spread, halo, sheen. It has beautiful shading going on. I just wish the color was nice. And I just talked about sepia yesterday. Look, not sepia. It's a very greenish brown. Ugh. So the extra fine has no feather spread, halo sheens, gorgeous shading going on. Looking at what's going on with the brown, it definitely goes through some color transitions where in the word brown it is very light. It gets that
green-brown color in. It gets the yellow. It goes to mid-tones, to dark tones. Quick is a very dark word compared to all the words around it. 14 seconds to dry. Medium is where this ink shines, in my opinion. The medium has no feather, spread, halo, sheen. It's got camouflage shading all over it. It's the only way I can really describe it. It is absolutely amazing to look at. Let's get the, there we go, autofocus on so that we can really kind of see the amount of back, and I can't even describe that much shading that's going on in here. It is truly beautiful amounts of shading. The amounts of shading are beautiful. The way it shades is beautiful. The color, not so much. The scrubby of the extra fine shows almost no color variation, but we did get quite a bit. The medium shows some. I mean, far left to far right, you see a lot, and we got tons in there. The smear test, you actually could recover this despite it being so light a color. Tomoe River. We get no bleeding. I mean, yeah, it's coming through on a scrubby. I'm putting it down stupid thick, like an animal. We get plenty of ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread. It has halo. The entire thing is haloed. No sheen and no shade. It's an ugly color. The extra fine is the same tone as, it's a slightly lighter tone than the 1.1. The extra fine has no feather spread. It has haloing all over it. The entire thing is haloed. It has no sheen and no shade. It took 22 seconds to dry. If the color was different, I would get this ink just for the way it halos on this paper. The medium is the same tone as the extra fine. The medium has no feather, spread, it has halo all over it. No sheen and no shade, 37 seconds to dry. I'm looking at the monitor, so I'm getting myself distracted because this amount of color variation I am not seeing in person, but it's showing up very well on camera, although it did not show up in the writing. The scrubby of the extra fine showed no color variation, and we got none. But now both these scrubbies show the haloing that I get in both the writing samples. The smear test, I could not recover this if I smeared while I was writing. Rhodia. No bleeding. Yeah, it comes through on a scrubby. I'm an animal. I get it. No halo. The 1.1 is no feather spread, halo sheen, and some very nice shading that's going on. I mean, this ink performs very well, and if this color's for you, then great, go for it. It shades beautifully. It's such a disappointment to me as a color. Yeah. So beautiful shading, like the E to R turns very light, and then the V gets very dark again. Nice. The extra fine is a noticeably lighter tone than the 1.1. Extra fine is no feather, spread, halo, sheen, and it has some very nice shading going on, like the top of the Q in quick and the K in quick, very dark. The H in the, very dark. X in fox jumps, starts very light and works its way very dark. Beautiful. And 12 seconds to dry. Now medium is a darker tone than the extra fine, not quite as dark as the 1.1. Medium has no feather, spread, halo sheen. It has some beautiful shading, like in jumps. Very light left side of the jumps. The camera's having trouble picking it up. Not so bad with my eye, and it works its way very dark. Brown starts very dark. It works to a mid-tone to very dark. Fox starts very dark to mid-tone to very dark. Beautiful. 19 seconds to dry. The scrubby of the extra fine and the medium show plenty of color variation, and we got a lot of color variation. And the smear test, you could recover this if you smeared while you were writing. So, TWSBI notebook. No bleeding, no real ghosting. The 1.1 is no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. Now, I don't always get very much shading on a TWSBI paper, but it performs well with fountain pens. The extra fine is a noticeably lighter tone than the 1.1. The extra fine has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade. It took 13 seconds to dry. Medium is a significantly darker tone than even the 1.1. Medium has no feather, spread. It has halo all over it, which I don't know that I have seen halo on TWSBI paper before. No sheen. And I'm going to say no shade because this light spot in the middle of brown looks like a freak show. It looks like a freaky moment. That spot on the J is where I put my thumb down. So that looks like I might have smeared the paper or something, because other than that, there is no color variation here, so I'm not even going to really look at that. 19 seconds to dry. The scrubby of the extra fine shows we should get some color variation, but I didn't. The smear test, the scrubby of the medium shows none, and I didn't get any. In the smear test, you could recover this if you smeared while you were writing. I was unhappy with this ink, so I decided to, while I gave it a nice paper. Now let's give it some crappy paper and see what happens. Like moleskin. And it actually performed with the extra fine pretty well. A lot of spotting coming through, but it wouldn't stop you from using the back of the page if this is just your pocket notebook to jot some notes. But the medium, no go. It does not touch the page underneath, and whether you can use the back of the page is really up to you. The medium has no spread. It has incredible feathering all over it. No halo, sheen, or shade. Just look at that feathering. Focus. Even out of focus you see feathering. Oh my God. All right. The extra fine is a slightly lighter tone than the medium. It has feathering all over it. All over it. Tiny feathers all over. This is a disgusting ink on a disgusting paper. No halo, sheen, or shade. 2 seconds to dry. The scrubby shows no color variation, and we got none. And the smear test, you could recover this if you smeared while you were writing. This color looks so bad. 20-pound copy paper. Yep, it bleeds. It does not touch the page underneath. You could not use the back of the page. This is the most brown this ink is. And it's baby diarrhea brown. Yeah. Baby diarrhea brown. I don't know. I want to make noises, but then I'd have to go edit them out, and I'd really make work for myself. The medium has spread, has feather, has no halo, no sheen, and no shade. The extra fine is the same tone as the medium. It has spread, it has feathers, it has no halo, no sheen, no shade. It took 1 second to dry. The scrubby had no color variation, and it had no color variation. But the smear test, you could not smear this, because I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, smear, and nothing came up. That is all that I have for the writing sample.
Instead of finding inks that look like Private Reserve Sepia, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. And a color that I really do like with browns is orange. I chose Elixir's Flame of the Forest. Before I give my opinion on this ink, I would ask, if you've enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. And if it's your first time here, I would invite you to subscribe. So what do I think of Private Reserve's Sepia? I don't like it. I get a bunch of green tones in its writing that I'm not appreciating with the sepia color. It really left me disappointed about this particular ink. Now, that doesn't mean that it is absolutely off. Sepia as a color does have a wide range of what is considered there. Just for me, this one kind of misses the mark. Thanks for watching.